Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Commander Vin stood on the bridge of the Zakari refugee flagship the Orison and watched the stars blur as engines struggled against the void. All around him, the hull trembled beneath repeated bursts of energy from pursuing hegemony fighters. Life support warnings flashed crimson on the console, and the scent of recycled air grew faintly sour. Vin's scaled hands hovered over the communication panel, torn between hope and despair. Below decks, pilot Rory gripped her flight controls in a cramped cockpit. Her tail curled around the seat's frame for balance as the Orison rocked violently. Through the small viewport, Rory glimpsed fragments of destroyed escort vessels tumbling into darkness. Every one represented lives lost, Zakari mothers, fathers, and children who had trusted the fleet's promise of safety. She forced herself to keep breathing, to stay focused on one goal: survival. Back on the bridge, the tactical officer Savon reported, shields at 15%. Engines at 22. Hegemony vessels closing to firing range in 4 minutes. Vin's jaw tightened. The hissing alarms reminded him how little time remained. He thought of the stories older Zakari had told him, of homeworld skies painted in turquoise dusk, of crystal spires that sang with the wind, of gardens where glowing flowers bloomed under twin moons. All gone now, erased by the cruelest war the galaxy had ever known. Vin turned to the communications officer, Tessa, whose eyes reflected the hollow-projected countdown. Her slender fingers hovered over the distress beacon. "Send the signal," he ordered softly, though his heart felt like molten glass. "Send it now before they strike again." Tessa hesitated. Vin knew why. Humans had only recently joined the galactic stage, and their reputation was a patchwork of myths. Some called them brash, others called them unpredictable, but none dared to claim they would answer a plea from an alien race that hegemony-branded criminals. Below him, the Orison's corridors shuddered with another impact. A groan of twisted metal echoed through the ship. Someone in the crew let out a sharp cry. Vin forced himself to ignore it. Urgency had replaced grief. He took a deep breath and spoke again, firmer this time. "Remember why we fight. For every life lost in this fleet, we owe the chance to reach humanity. Proceed." Tessa's fingers moved, and a pulse of energy flared as the distress call launched toward human space. The message was simple: we are the last survivors of the Zakari people, refugees fleeing genocide at the hands of the hegemony. We seek asylum under the terms of the Terran Convention. Our children live among us. Do not let our hope die. No sooner had the signal left the ship than the Orison's shields flickered and collapsed. The bridge lights dimmed, and the power diverted solely to engines and emergency life support. Vin and his officers braced themselves as a blinding beam of plasma fire ripped open a hole in the starboard hull. Alarms screamed and sparks showered the deck plates. Savon shouted damage reports as the beam cut a molten scar across the floor. In that moment, Vin felt the weight of millennia bearing down on him. The legacy of his ancient civilization, the dreams of every Zakari soul that had survived this far, all depended on humanity's response. He closed his eyes and whispered a prayer to the ancestors: "Guide their hearts, make them understand, grant us your strength." Simultaneously, in human space, Captain Sela of the patrol vessel Aurora was on routine watch when her console pinged with an incoming distress beacon. She frowned at the strange signal header, "Unidentified refugee fleet." Ordering silence in the command chamber, she called her first officer, Dr. Oren, to view the transmission. The message played in clipped Zakari dialect, overlaid by automated translations struggling to keep pace with broken transmissions. Words like genocide, children, and last hope echoed in Sela's mind. She felt her pulse quicken. "It can't be real," Sela muttered. She glanced at her crew, alert young officers, their faces pale in the glow of the screens. "They're calling for asylum," Sela said. "Zakari refugees, they're in danger." Dr. Oren's eyes flickered with concern. "Orders dictate we cannot escort vessels branded as criminals by the hegemony," he reminded her. Sela pressed her palm to her badge. "Orders also say we cannot ignore a distress call when lives are at stake. We'll go against the hegemony. Plot an intercept vector. We're answering that call." Back on the Orison, the lights plunged entirely as emergency backup kicked in. Crews scrambled to seal bulkheads and reroute power. Vin held fast in the semi-dark, trusting in the beacon he had sent. Minutes stretched like hours. Every tremor foretold another breach. Tessa whispered, "They've accepted the call, Commander. Calculations suggest intercept in 2 minutes." A cheer rose among the bridge crew, though it faltered as another blast rocked the ship. Vin allowed himself a single nod, pride and relief flooding him. He turned to Savon, "Prepare to join formation with the humans. Set course for those coordinates." Savon tapped commands, and the Orison slowly shifted its vector, flanking starboard to align with the incoming Aurora. Outside, the void stayed unforgiving. Fragments of lost Zakari ships drifted like ghosts. But among the debris, a flicker of blue-white light appeared on the horizon, human starship Aurora, its hull gleaming under distant starlight heading straight for them. For the first time since the purge began, hope felt tangible. As the two fleets converged, Vin closed his eyes briefly, steeling himself for what would come next. Humanity's intervention might spark war with the hegemony, but it offered a chance to save his people. And in that moment, he vowed that the Zakari would repay this kindness with every ounce of ingenuity and courage they possessed. The dawn of a new alliance was upon them, and nothing would ever be the same. The Aurora's sleek hull glowed softly against the star-speckled void as she fell in beside the Orison. Aboard bridge, Captain Sela rose from her command chair, eyes fixed on the tactically critical view screen. Beside her, First Officer Dr. Oren tapped rapidly at his datapad, translating Zakari telemetry into actionable data. The two ships moved as one, human precision guiding alien desperation toward potential safety. Below decks on Orison, pilot Rory fought to steady the shuttle bay temperature, now dangerously high from rerouted power. Sweat beaded on her brow as she navigated through cables and conduits, her heart racing with each alarm. The makeshift docking clamps groaned under the strain of two enormous ships linked in tandem. Children's cries drifted through the corridors, fear mixed with wonder at the strange blue glow filtering in from above. Rory pushed her emotions aside. Calm focus was the only thing that would get them through this. On the Aurora's bridge, Sela cleared her throat. "Establish secured comms link to Commander Vin," she ordered. The communications officer, Lieutenant Meal, nodded. Moments later, Vin's scaled visage appeared in a flickering hollow projection before Sela. He looked exhausted, bioluminescent patterns on his skin dimmed to a muted pearl. His vertical pupils dilated with relief and uncertainty. "Captain Sela," Vin began, voice gravelly from disuse of full-range speech. "We are grateful. We owe you our lives." Sela inclined her head. "We had to answer. Your fleet's children are counting on us." She paused, choosing words carefully. "We've set you on a safe vector to Terra Station. You'll be under human escort until you're in protected space." Behind Vin, Tessa's hands hovered over a console, ready to relay instructions. Savon stood at attention, monitoring weapon readiness in case hegemony fighters reappeared. "Thank you," Vin repeated. "But you should know our ships cannot match your speed. The hegemony pursuers remain just outside sensor range." "We'll handle them," Sela said confidently. She tapped a sequence on her console. On the viewport, two triangular arcs of energy appeared, the Aurora's countermeasures activating. "Projecting jamming field. They won't detect you until you're inside Terra borders. After that, the territorial treaty kicks in." Vin exhaled, a hiss of air hissed through his respirator ports. For a moment, silence filled the comm link, human calm meeting alien desperation. Then Vin's shoulders lifted in something like hope. "Lead us there," he said. "We follow your course." On Terra Station, Ambassador Koss's office was a whirl of frantic activity. The emergency asylum request had reached the council within minutes of Sela's confirmation. Koss, a tall human with steely gray hair and a reputation for negotiating impossible deals, rubbed his temples as his assistant Julia handed him encrypted Zakari data. "The arrival will be in 8 standard hours," Julia reported. "They're 2 minutes from crossing the border." "Good," Koss muttered. He turned to the long communication table lit by a single overhead lamp. Scattered hollow documents showed political factions arguing for and against immediate asylum. The hegemony envoy was already lobbying for refusal, citing illegal genetic research claims. Koss slammed his palm on the table. "We cannot leave them adrift. We signed the accords." Julia nodded. "We need a public statement before they arrive." Koss rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Prepare a speech. Emphasize humanity's duty, compassion over politics. We'll frame this as humanity's defining moment." Meanwhile, aboard the Orison, Rory finally secured the last access panel. Coolant lines hummed back to life and the shuttle bay stopped baking. She slumped against a bulkhead, breathing hard. Beside her, Mechanic Drek, a young Zakari with bioluminescent tendrils trailing down his arms, handed her a damp cloth. "That should do it," he said in his soft, raspy voice. "You saved us again." Rory wiped her brow, the weight of every life aboard pressed on her chest. She glanced through the bay's viewport at the Aurora's docking arm firm against the Orison's hull. "We're not safe yet," she replied. "We have to trust the humans." Drek's eyes dimmed with worry. "Do they truly understand us? What if they betray our plea for safety?" His question hung heavy in the recycled air. Rory met his gaze. "Captain Sela isn't like the hegemony. I saw her risk her ship for us." She brushed a lock of shimmering hair from her face. "We owe them our future. We must believe they'll keep their promise." Back on the Aurora's bridge, Sela studied the sensor readouts. The hegemony fighters were indeed jamming at the edge of human space, but the Aurora's advanced stealth systems kept them blind. She exhaled. "We've got 10 minutes before you cross Terra border," she told Vin. "After that, the Council's decision stands, you'll be safe." Vin nodded, bioluminescent patterns returning in gentle waves across his scales, a sign of gratitude and cautious optimism. "We thank you, Captain. The Zakari will not forget this." Sela allowed herself a small smile. "And we'll learn from each other. Let's hope this starts a new chapter, one where species aid rather than destroy." As the two vessels aligned for the final approach, the Orison's bridge crew reduced power to non-essentials, conserving fuel for possible evasion. Savin monitored the armament clusters, ready to support the Aurora's defensive maneuvers. Tessa composed a second message addressed to Terra Station. "We have made contact, refugees in tow, coordinates ETA 8 hours." Far below Terra Station's observation deck, cultural envoy Marin prepared a welcome team. Marin, a soft-spoken historian with a passion for alien art, clutched a small display case containing a gift, fragments of Zakari crystal fashioned into a simple sculpture. She believed that this gesture might build bridges where words could not. Beside her, Security Chief Lorek, a grizzled veteran of numerous border skirmishes, frowned at the incoming transmission. "Make sure they're not carrying any surprises," he growled. Marin placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "These are refugees, not invaders. We show them respect and they'll show us theirs." Lorik grunted but nodded. As the holofeed transitioned from raw telemetry to the welcoming glow of Terra Station's orbit, Marin practiced her greeting. Words of peace, promises of sanctuary, and an invitation to share their culture. Back on the Orison, the energy hum shifted as greenish light of Terra Station came into view. The massive cylinder glowed against Jupiter's pale disk, its biodomes and living quarters a stark contrast to the lifeless void outside. Children pressed against viewing ports, their wide eyes reflecting hope for the first time in months. Vin stood behind Rory and Savin, watching humanity's bastion of compassion grow larger. Emotion, a blend of relief, pride, and cautious joy stirred within him. He cleared his throat, voice thick with feeling. "Prepare to dock. We step into a new era." Rory allowed herself a smile for the first time since the purge began. "We make history today," she said to Drek, who stood beside her. Drek's tendrils glowed softly. "Yes," he replied, "and maybe, just maybe, the galaxy will remember that hope survived after all." As the Orison slowly maneuvered toward Terra Station's docking bay, shielded behind the Aurora's hull, the refugees braced for the next chapter. Humanity's whisper of salvation had reached them in the darkest hour, and now, safe haven beckoned on the edge of a new dawn. The Orison's docking clamps released with a soft hiss, and the refugee flagship slid into Terra Station's vast docking bay. Inside, bright lights revealed human engineers in sleek suits moving among Zakari crews. The air smelled of ozone and fresh paint, a stark contrast to the recycled tang the refugees had grown accustomed to. For many, it was the first time they breathed air untainted by fear. Commander Vin stepped onto the landing platform, flanked by his senior officers Savin and Tessa. Below them, clusters of refugees, young and old, gazed around in awe. The station's curved walls were lined with biogardens where strange human plants thrived under artificial sunlight. Vin's bioluminescent scales flickered in curiosity as he took in the scene. He remembered stories of human ingenuity, but seeing it in person stirred a new sense of wonder. Pilot Rory disembarked beside mechanic Drek, each carrying a small pack of personal effects. Rory's boots clicked on polished metal as she followed a human engineer, Lieutenant Mara, toward a life support transfer station. Mara greeted her with a gentle nod. "We'll get your systems integrated," she promised. Rory nodded, though her stomach fluttered. She worried that human standards might not fit Zakari needs: air mixture, temperature, lighting. Every Zakari system was tuned to their homeworld's environment. Meanwhile, on Terra Station's central concourse, cultural envoy Marin stood before a crowd of human diplomats, Zakari refugees, and curious onlookers. She held the crystal sculpture from her gift case, its facets catching light in prismatic flashes. Beside her, Ambassador Koss took the podium. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Today marks a turning point for two civilizations. The Zakari have endured unimaginable loss, and we stand ready to share our home in friendship." Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. Vin and Sela met at the edge of the concourse. The human captain's dark uniform contrasted with Vin's shimmering scales. They bowed in greeting, human hands pressed lightly to chest, Zakari claws touching palm. Sela's steady gaze met Vin's cautious optimism. "How does it feel to stand on Terra soil?" she asked. Vin inhaled deeply. Strange and hopeful, he admitted. We owe you more than words can convey. He gestured toward the Zakari families behind him. They look to us for safety, now they will also learn your ways. Sela offered a small smile. And we will learn from you. Our engineers are intrigued by your life support tech. Your ways may solve some of our own challenges. As discussions continued, a group of military officers arrived, Earth Security Chief Lorek leading, flanked by stern-faced guards. Lorek's reputation for strict protocol preceded him. He nodded curtly to Vin. Commander, follow me. We need to secure the refugee quarters before opening public access. His tone left no room for protest. Vin inclined his head. Lead the way. Behind them, Savin and Tessa exchanged uneasy glances. They feared human unpredictability as much as hegemony aggression. Enforcing security felt like mistrust, but after trauma, caution was necessary. The refugee quarters lay in a converted biodome. Thick transparent walls enclosed pods of prefabricated living units. Inside each pod, human furnishings were arranged alongside Zakari relics, family portraits, memory crystals, and cultural artifacts. Children of both species peered curiously through partitions as humans and Zakari passed. Laughter and whispers mingled, an unexpected harmony. Outside, in a cleared sector, hegemony drones hovered at the station's perimeter, scanning for signs of prohibited lifeforms. The station's automated defense grid remained on standby. Below decks, Engineer Tarn worked furiously to recalibrate turret controls, ensuring drones posed no threat. Tarn's multi-lensed eyes darted between schematics and consoles, translating human engineering diagrams into Zakari schematics. The challenge taxed every ounce of his patience, but he recognized the stakes. A miscalculation could trigger conflict. Back in the concourse, Ambassador Koss opened space for Marin to present the crystal sculpture. Marin approached the stand, her voice steady. This gift symbolizes resilience. May its fractured beauty remind us both that unity can survive even in brokenness. She placed the sculpture on a pedestal where colored lights illuminated its facets. Gasps rose from the audience, human and Zakari alike felt its quiet power. As applause faded, Sela intercepted a coded alert on her wrist console. Her brow tightened. She excused herself and found Dr. Oren in the medical bay. He was examining Zakari physiology under human medical scanners, translating biological data in real time. Sela whispered, reports of a flare-up in diplomatic tension. The hegemony envoy demands immediate access to the refugees for verification. They threaten sanctions unless we comply. Dr. Oren's expression darkened. They'll seize the opportunity to sow discord. We must refuse and protect these people. He tapped commands. I'll prepare a response citing the Terran Convention. Human sovereignty ensures we decide who enters our domains. Outside the medical bay, Vin and Koss conferred quietly. Vin's voice was low but urgent. We cannot let them test our resolve. If hegemony gains access, they'll claim we're harboring weapons. Koss nodded. I'll present our own findings. Dr. Oren's data is clear. Your DNA poses no threat. We'll stand firm. Meanwhile, Marin noticed orphan Zakari children gathered near the crystal sculpture. Their wide eyes reflected wonder and uncertainty. She crouched beside them, offering a small translator device. Hello, she said softly. I'm Marin. Would you like to tell me your name? The children whispered among themselves, then one stepped forward. I am Lix, he said in broken common. Marin smiled. Lix, may I show you something? She held out a small holographic display of Earth wildlife, forest creatures, birds in flight. The children watched, mesmerized. Laughter bubbled as images shifted, a fragile thread of joy. Further down in the refugee quarters, Rory and Drek faced their own cultural collision. Human meals arrived, nutrient packs designed for human diets. Rory poked at a brightly colored gel. Drek sniffed it suspiciously before tasting, his eyes widened at the sweetness. It's good, he said, different but good. Rory laughed, a sound that echoed oddly in the empty corridor. We should share Zakari dishes with them next, she suggested. Drek nodded. Food can bridge worlds. As evening cycle approached, Terra Station's artificial sky dimmed to a simulated sunset. Soft amber light filled biodomes, blending human and Zakari plant life into a peaceful tableau. Refugees and hosts alike gathered in communal spaces, sharing meals, stories, and music. The Zakari's bioluminescent patterns pulsed to the rhythm of human instruments, creating an impromptu symphony. Yet beneath the harmony, tension lingered. The hegemony envoy's threats hovered like dark clouds on the horizon. Humanity's willingness to protect the Zakari now faced its greatest test. In the station's council chamber, Ambassador Koss prepared to deliver his counter to the hegemony's demands, while Captain Sela and Dr. Oren gathered data to defend their choice. And deep in the docking bay, Vin watched the mingling species with cautious hope. Cultures had collided, but neither had broken. Instead, they found new ground for understanding. As the station's artificial sun set on their first day together, Vin dared to believe that cooperation might outshine conflict, and that in the light of shared adversity, two worlds could forge a stronger future. Ambassador Koss stood at the curved window of Terra Station's sanctuary hall, gazing out at the vast expanse of Jupiter's pale disk. The hall itself was a marvel of human architecture, soaring arches of transparent alloy that bathed the space in soft natural light, even in the simulated night cycle. Beneath him, rows of modular habitation units formed the temporary homes for the Zakari refugees. Children's laughter echoed faintly through the corridors, mingling with the distant hum of life support systems. For a moment, he allowed himself a breath of satisfaction. The station had adapted to shelter 50,000 souls in a matter of hours, thanks to the ingenuity of human engineers and the goodwill of countless volunteers. Behind him, cultural envoy Marin arranged seating for the emergency council session scheduled to begin. Representatives from Earth's major governments, Terra's colonial outposts, and the draconian ally-turned observer assembled on leather benches. At the head of the chamber, a holoprojector displayed live images of the Orison's crew interacting with human families, shared meals, exchanged gifts, and fascinated children studying bioluminescent patterns. Marin felt a swell of pride. This was her vision realized, a peaceful interplay of two species. Her reverie was broken by the arrival of Captain Sela and Commander Vin side by side. Sela's uniform bore the new insignia of Provisional Envoy, an acknowledgement of her role in the rescue. Vin carried himself with cautious dignity, his scaled skin reflecting the hall's light in soft waves. The crowd greeted them with polite applause, tempered by expectant silence. Koss stepped forward to open the session. "Fellow delegates," Koss began, voice firm and calm, "we gather under extraordinary circumstances. The Zakari refugees stand among us, fleeing a campaign of genocide. Under the Galactic Refugee Accords, we are bound to provide sanctuary and due process. Today, we determine the terms of their asylum and begin a dialogue that may reshape our place in the galaxy." A murmur of assent rippled through the audience. The hegemony envoy, a slender being named Rektar, rose from his seat. His pale skin rippled with narrow veins and his voice carried a precise clinical tone. "Ambassador," he said, "the hegemony demands immediate repatriation of the Zakari for trial. The accusations against them, unauthorized genetic research, cannot be dismissed lightly. Continued protection of these so-called refugees violates our treaty obligations." Koss inclined his head. "We have reviewed all available data. The Zakari's genetic samples contain no illegal markers. Our independent analysis, conducted by Dr. Oren and verified by Terra's Scientific Council, confirms their innocence of any bioweapons development." He gestured to Sela. "Captain." Sela stepped forward, voice steady. "The Orison's crew have integrated peacefully. Their technology provides no evidence of hostile intent. On the contrary, they have shared life support innovations that may benefit Terra's own habitats." She paused, then added quietly, "We risk war if we hand them over without due process." Rektar's vertical pupils narrowed. "War is preferable to harboring criminals." He sat heavily, the debate's tension thick in the air. At that moment, Envoy Marin stood and held up a small holopad. "If I may," she said, "I propose a compromise. Terra Station will form a joint investigative committee, half Zakari, half human, to oversee the asylum process and ensure transparency to all parties. Legal experts from both sides will draft guidelines within 72 hours. Until then, the Zakari remain under our protection." Silence fell, then Koss smiled. "An excellent proposal, Envoy Marin," he addressed the council. "Shall we vote on this motion?" Hands raised, the majority voted in favor. Only the hegemony delegates opposed. The committee was formed. Outside the chamber, Vin and Sela walked through the station's biogarden, a serene oasis of human and Zakari flora growing side by side. Bioluminescent vines wove through human ferns, their glowing tendrils illuminating lavender petals. The air was cool and fragrant, a sharp contrast to the Orison's sterile corridors. Sela glanced at Vin. "I know this process will take time. Some in the council fear seeding conflict with the hegemony," she frowned. "But we've made the right choice." Vin nodded, his bioluminescent patterns pulsing in gentle gratitude. "My people are grateful, but what comes next? Hegemony aggression is inevitable." He looked up at the biodome's ceiling where simulated stars sparkled. "We need a plan." Sela crossed her arms. "The investigative committee will buy us time. Meanwhile, I propose we begin cultural exchange programs, Zakari engineers working with Terra scientists, children's playgroups, face-to-face interactions break down fear." She paused. And I'll lobby the military council for a provisional defense pact, human vessels protecting Zakari colonies in human space. Vin's scales brightened. Yes, mutual cooperation. We must show the galaxy that our alliance is a force for good, not a provocation. He hesitated. And there's one more thing. Zakari elders long to share our history, our art, our music, our knowledge. We should open an embassy here on Terra Station. Sela smiled. I'll make it happen. Meanwhile, in the station's medical wing, Dr. Oren oversaw treatment for refugees still suffering shock and injuries. The team worked tirelessly to adapt human medical protocols to Zakari biology. In one recovery bay, a young Zakari child named Lix lay in a tubular pod, connected to nutrient drips. His wound had healed quickly, but voices in the hallway startled him awake. Dr. Oren entered, offering a translator device. "Good afternoon, Lix," he said gently. "I have something for you." He handed the device to the child, who pressed the button and heard Marin's voice. "Hello, Lix, would you like to draw with me?" On a nearby hollow screen, Marin's hand sketched simple shapes. The child's eyes widened and a smile spread across his face. Dr. Oren watched as the Zakari child found comfort in human care. He turned to his assistant, Nurse Mona. "Our medical collaboration is more than treatment, it's trust." Mona nodded. "Every healed body is a bond." In the station's engineering sector, Chief Engineer Tarn collaborated with Terra technicians to retrofit the Orison's power cores into station auxiliary generators. The goal? Strengthen Terra Station's grid and create a permanent link between Zakari and human technologies. In the heart of a humming power hall, sparks flew as Zakari blue plasma conduits connected to human alloy nodes. Terran engineer Juno wiped sweat from her brow. "Your design is brilliant," she said to Tarn, "but it doesn't match our safety protocols." Tarn adjusted his multi-lens focus. "We can incorporate your failsafes but preserve the plasma conduit's integrity. It offers greater efficiency." He tapped a sequence. The lights dimmed, then soared brighter as the hybrid generator stabilized. Juno's eyes lit up. "We did it," Tarn nodded, satisfaction glowing in his eyes. "Together." As the artificial sky shifted toward a simulated dawn, station speakers announced a cultural fair in the central concourse. Stalls lined with Zakari crafts, bioluminescent jewelry, woven tapestries, sculpted crystal miniatures, mixed with human paintings and musical instruments. Musicians from both species prepared to perform on a raised stage. Envoy Marin took the microphone. "Welcome to the first Terra Zakari Cultural Fair," she beamed. "Today we celebrate unity through art." The crowd cheered as Zakari dancers, their scales glowing, moved to human rhythms. Children from mixed families clapped and laughed. Marin watched Vin standing beside Koss, both smiling as their people shared stories, music, and food. Across the hall, the hegemony envoy Riktar observed with narrowed eyes. He tapped his datapad, issuing a report that spoke of increasingly dangerous interspecies cohesion. But he remained silent, outnumbered in both votes and hearts. In that moment, Koss stepped to Vin's side. "Look around," he whispered. "This is why we fight, not for politics but for hope." Vin's bioluminescent patterns rippled with emotion. "We build not just shelters but bridges." As laughter and music filled the sanctuary hall, Sela joined them. She raised a glass of Terra vintage wine. "To new alliances," she toasted. "To the future." Vin, Koss, and Sela clinked glasses, each aware that beyond the station's protective dome, dark storms gathered. But here, inside this haven, two species had come together to create something stronger than fear. And in that light, Sanctuary had become a promise of a brighter dawn.